Hey, everybody. Today on the Stronghold Floors podcast, we're going to be talking about two terms that if you've done any research about garage floor coatings, you've come across. These two terms are epoxy and, Mike, let me know if I get this wrong, polyaspartic. Did I say that correctly? Okay.
You did.
So we're here with Mike Mincemoyer, who is the owner of Stronghold Floors and expert in all things garage floor coatings. And we're recording this today because one of the most popular topics and popular blogs on our website is this question about epoxy versus polyaspartic. And we want to discuss those differences and give a little bit of an update and demystify this seemingly pivotal decision around which one should you choose and why. So, Mike, welcome. Are you ready to answer this question and discuss this seemingly possibly divisive conversation from a trades perspective?
Right.
Because it seems like applicators kind of have their preference, and we'll get into that. But let's just start off. What is epoxy, and just traditionally, why is it used in garage floor coatings?
Sure, great question. So epoxies are a two-component polymer, meaning they're a plastic-like, they're fluid, two fluids. It's a resin and a hardener. And when you mix them together, they generate heat. So they're always talked about as being exothermic. So they generate heat as they cure, and they cure into a hard film surface. And epoxies go back to the 1950s. I mean, they have been used extensively globally for construction, not just on concrete, but also on metals. So they're industrial, residential, commercial use, even into very heavy duty applications like naval actual ships. It's very common to see epoxies coating everything inside of something like a power plant. My father worked at one, and you would always see everything, all the concrete coated in epoxy and different applications for specialty use there. But epoxies have just been around the longest. That's the one that we all know because it came out of the 50s. It's 75 years into proven use, billions and billions of square feet of it applied over the years. So
epoxy has been the I will say the name brand, right? It's the big player. So then, but what is polyaspartic, and just how is that different than epoxy? Exactly.
So a polyaspartic is actually, not without going too deep into the chemistry, is something called an aliphatic polyurea. So polyaspartic by itself, that word really just means it's a faster setting version of something. And it typically, and I'm going to talk in generalities without getting too deep into chemistry, but it means it's a type of polyurea that sets up very quickly. And so polyaspartic has become the other buzzword that people have learned over time, and it gets bantered about a little bit, sometimes misused a bit, because it doesn't always refer to polyurea. It can be polyurethanes, something we're a little more familiar with, the idea of, I put that on wood when I'm making furniture, I'm doing a project at the house or something. But there are polyaspartic polyureas and there's polyaspartic polyurethanes. But generally, when we're talking about it, especially us Stronghold Floors, we're saying it's a polyurea. It's a chemistry that came out late in the mid 90s, but it really took off in the 2000s because of its speed. And that speed has certain benefits we'll talk about today, but it also has some drawbacks. And that's where this whole epoxy versus polyaspartic really gets going, because
it seems like they're just almost interchangeable online. And I want to be careful to say that sentence because it's not. They are two different things. But why is there all this confusion around these two terms?
I think it somewhat came out of the marketing. It's almost like when we talk about, will you hand me a Kleenex? Well, Kleenex is a brand, and it's really a facial tissue that we're using. But epoxy got thrown around for years, and then everyone jumped on the word polyaspartic because it was something new to talk about, and they tried to make it good versus bad, and that's what my whole blog when I wrote it, Sam, was really about. Is it's not that one's good or bad; they both have their benefits, but they're both coatings, they're both polymers, they're both plastic-like at the end of the day once they harden, but they have really different characteristics to them.
Sorry, just to
no,
cut
not
you
at all.
off there. But what we do end up, for at least Stronghold Floors, we trust epoxy more so than the polyaspartic coatings. Is, what's the reason? How does that work?
Right. Well, we trust epoxies for the layer that's going to bond to the concrete.
Yes.
And we trust polyaspartic polyurea for the clear coat that protects the system. So that's our glossy. And the real reason is when it comes to bonding to the concrete, any material that you want to bond well, it needs time to get down into the pores of the concrete if you've opened it properly through prepping it, get into the scratch pattern that was imparted when you diamond ground the surface. And this is why when we talk about DIY kits, they don't hold, because they're just brooming the concrete, pressure spraying it, or acid washing it. They didn't really prep it right. But then on top of that, you need a material that can get down in, grab a hold, and harden there. Well, epoxies are slower setting, most of them. You can make very fast ones, but what we use is an epoxy that's fully pigmented. It's going to go down and take its time soaking in, and that's called wetting out. And it needs to get into those pores and get into the scratches before it hardens. It gives you time to throw the chips into it, and then the next day, it's locked onto the concrete. It's really got a good soak in there, a good chemical bond, and a good mechanical bond to the concrete. Polyurea can do that too. And what you always see in the marketing materials is, when they talk about it's 4 times stronger and all, most of those numbers really have no meaning, but they were done in a laboratory where it was 70 degrees, 50% humidity, the perfect temperature and humidity to try applying that polyaspartic to the concrete. That's not the real world. The real world we live in, when we're out there doing garage floors, you're dealing with weather, heat, humidity, the speed of your installers, and how much energy they have left. So one of the reasons, so if you put all that together, with us where we coat in Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, it's hot and humid here in the summer. Mm-hmm. Heat and humidity make the polyaspartic go even faster. So you're putting it onto this concrete and saying, hey, I want you to get down in there and soak in and grab hold, and I want you to let me throw chips into it too. Well, it doesn't have time for all that. It's setting up so quickly that it's already a fast material by its chemical nature, what it was designed for. But now you're exaggerating all that because humidity really makes it go fast. Heat, the heat of the slab, the heat of the materials, the heat of the air flowing over it, all of them are going to make, all those factors are going to make it go even faster. Yeah. So now you're taking poor installers and make them go super, super fast, trying to apply something that's already going to set up too quickly and not grab a hold potentially. So to us, there's just no point. Why not use a 75-year proven material that doesn't have any of those constraints and take your time, throw your chips, know that it's going to soak in, but then use the polyurea for the clear coat the next day on top of the chips.
Yeah, I hope one of the questions that we have people ask is how long does this process take? And just kind of simplifying what you said, faster is not always better.
No. Faster is great. When you put the clear coat on at the end of the system, you really want that to set up quick. That way a bug can't land in it and get stuck in there. Leaves can't blow in, get stuck in there. That's great. And that's going to be a layer that, it doesn't have any constraints. Once it gets on there and touches those chips and the epoxy underneath and it locks onto it, that's fine. That's great. But that's a much easier surface to bond to than that first layer that has to get down into that concrete.
Yeah.
So faster isn't always better. Faster in certain parts is good, because the other problem is, we take a day and a half. We make 2 stops. Our competitors want to do it in 1 day. Well, if you push everything in a 1-day floor, your guys have to get there, grind the floor open, apply either the first layer with the chips, or oftentimes they even use a primer layer. So they have to put a primer, then the colored layer down, throw the chips into it, let it harden, and then the crew is going to put the clear coat on at the end of the day when they're tired, when the heat is the highest, the slab temperature is the highest, winds have picking up usually, thunderstorms are typically coming in. Every factor is against you doing that. We're going to put that polyaspartic clear coat on the next morning. Everything had time to set up. Nobody had to rush. Do it right. Do it right the first time and don't rush.
So, again, sort of summarizing something that you said just a few moments ago, Stronghold doesn't play the either or game of epoxy or polyaspartic.
Right.
We understand that there's applications for both, and we use both to their strengths of strategically using epoxy for that base coat that'll also take the chips because it will soak into the concrete better. It'll give a little bit more time to have the chips applied properly, so you have full coverage. But then the polyaspartic, again, strategically using that for its advantages of tends to be a little bit faster. It still is just as hard, if not even some more benefits there. There's companies that kind of pit one versus another. Why do we see that like in the industry where it's like, no, we should be using, this is all we use, and if you don't use this, then you can't work with us. Why do some companies in the industry do that? What's the strategy there?
Yeah, oftentimes it's not even that they had a strategy, it's forced upon them. Like if many of our competitors are franchises, they're part of a network. And that franchisor is dictating what materials they're going to use because they have to buy it from them. They're saying this is the process you must follow. And while that oftentimes will work, it doesn't work in all situations. And it might have been shown to them in 3 or 4 days of training in Arizona where there is no humidity. There isn't some of the factors that they're going to run into in Florida or here or a great part of the nation. And so it's outside of their control oftentimes. And the other thing, honestly, Sam, is most of our competitors, they've only had a few days of training somewhere. It's the only thing that they know. Where, we, at this point, we're 21 years in. We have been trained by over a half a dozen manufacturers. We were part of a franchise network at one time. I actually expanded their offerings and got them away from just using 1-day polyaspartic installs because of the issues that they were having. And we opened them up to more materials, greater success, but you have to provide that extra training. And most of these franchisees, they do their 1 week or 2 weeks of training and off they go. And I'm not faulting them. I understand that, but it's oftentimes it's lack of understanding about the chemistries and it's mandated. They just don't have a choice, Sam.
So Stronghold Floors, we've done over 9,000 floors.
Yes.
Just that small number of floors. In the experience of putting down over 9,000 floors, what are those key things then that we need to understand and we need our clients to understand in order to make the process up to our highest quality standard? Right.
Well, honestly, Sam, we have done 1-day floors. There are times where we have to do it, but it's not for a residential garage. It's the restaurant that can only give us 5 hours and then they got to reopen the next morning. So it's not to say, that we wouldn't do a 1-day floor. We do them for specific needs, but we're not going to go out there and do a garage floor that way. And that's really what I want I want homeowners and garage customers to understand is there's no reason to hurry. B, there's too many factors that come into play that sometimes you're fighting too many problems with using a polyaspartic to bond to your concrete. If it's July, it's 95 degrees, it's 80% humidity, the breeze is blowing warm air in the garage. You're fighting all the things that you don't have to fight if you use an epoxy. And the only thing, Sam, that really an epoxy, they often beat up on epoxies and they say, well, and this is one of the things that causes confusion. They say, well, epoxy yellows. Well, we're not using epoxy on the clear coat. We're using it in the base coat. And the reality is we all use the same flakes. So if we get somewhere where the sunlight's really hitting it, the first thing sunlight's going to do is probably change the look of the chips over time. I like I said, there are the right reasons to use a polyaspartic polyurea. One of them is it just tolerates sunlight better. It doesn't yellow. See, that clear coat doesn't shift from, it was nice and clear, and now it's kind of got this yellow hue, and it's worse where it's near my windows, or it's worse where it went out the garage, beyond the garage door, out onto that little apron. I get it. They're right. That is why a polyaspartic is used for the clear coat. Again, we're trying to use the best materials to create the best system that works the best for all situations.
The yellowing was going to be something I brought up because I know that's.
I figured you would.
Yeah, from previous conversations, one of the key, just look and feel benefits of the polyaspartic is that it is resistant to that yellowing compared to the epoxy.
It's even more scratch resistant because it's a different type of formulation. It's more chemically resistant than most epoxies. Epoxies are actually harder. It's just, at the end of the day, harder isn't better on that clear coat because it can scratch easier. Harder isn't gaining you anything if your car leaks gasoline on it. The polyurea is the reason it's going to tolerate the gasoline and the oil and all that. So it's not an if one or the other.
Well, and I think that's the key thing for people to understand is that it's, the way in which Stronghold uses the right tools for the right part of the process is what makes the process unique, the Stronghold floor process unique. But it also just shows that, you're not pushing a one particular material over another. You're trying to produce the best quality product.
Right. We're not guided by one manufacturer or a franchisor or a marketing company. We're guiding it and trying to help everyone understand the why. And that's really why we have cultivated such a success even with our builders, is they see the homeowners aren't calling them back and saying, hey, my floor peeled off and it was installed last summer. I don't understand why it came up. Well, because we didn't fight the humidity. Yeah. We didn't fight the 95-degree heat, that was occurring at that time. So, it's just experience. And it's when you have the ability to guide your own use of chemicals and do it right, you're not pigeonholed into that. And in that respect, that's kind of what happens. That's, when you asked me the other day, why do so many people do it this way? It's because they don't have a choice.
Yeah. So, I guess maybe the last thing to sort of touch on is for the homeowner, who's doing the research, they're trying to make the best decision possible. But as soon as they start to do the research, they realize that, there's a lot of technical stuff here that it would be beneficial for me to understand. What would you say to them to help them feel a little less overwhelmed and be able to make the best decision for their home?
I guess I would say don't worry about all the technical terms being thrown around and treat it like you do most decisions. Who's been out there the longest? Who's got the reviews? And who has the confidence of other parties? And when I say other parties, for us, that's really about the, big builders, some of the biggest in our service area, Toll Brothers, Miller and Smith, DRB Homes. They're using us year after year after year because they know we have the experience. They know we're able to warranty our floors the way that we do because we're not having those issues, and we're not a new startup. Because yes, you can find we have a lot of competitors out there, but if you research it, most of them they came about after the pandemic, so they haven't been out here very long. They're 2021 and newer, and they just really don't have the experience to know the problems they're going to run into. And it's also why their warranties are oftentimes only 5 years as well. So.
And I mean, on the flip side, I mean, you've been at this over 20 years now. So,
yes.
So, I mean, sorry to remind you of that, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I might be one of the older owners that you're going to run into as well, but I have young staff to do all the installs. You won't see me out there too quickly. They tell me I'm slow.
Older and wiser.
Wiser. I hope so.
I mean, 9,000 floors is definitely a badge to wear, and you've had great success. We have lots of happy customers. And people are impressed with the process that you really have labored to make an easy process for homeowners. I know the one thing that you've said that now I've experienced is, we didn't even know your crews were even here. They came in, they were very professional. They got the job done, and they did what they said they were going to do. And It was very little hassle. So,
absolutely.
If somebody's feeling overwhelmed with the decision-making process of this endeavor, we can be sure in saying that the actual installation process will be extremely easy because of the professionalism that the team has, and because we've been doing this so long now that we can eliminate surprises and know how to get things done. So long, Sam, that we have third generation customers. That starts to make me feel a little old. There we go. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So if you've listened to this podcast and you found something out of it, you've gotten something out of it, we hope that you are now wrapping it up, feeling a little bit more confident in what some of these chemicals and what some of these technical terms mean and how they will be applied to your floor. If you are ready to schedule a consultation, please visit the website to get a free quote. You can also check out lots of images and the gallery of floor coatings on the website. And there's tons of resources that come directly from Mike, who's been doing this just so many years that nothing surprises him anymore. And he's got a great set of resources that he's really curated and put together that come from firsthand experiences. So check out the resources on the website. And again, if this has helped clear things up for you, feel free to share this with a friend.
Please.
Give us a comment, and we hope to see you on the next episode. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Sam.